Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yes. So hello, everyone, or hello, the few that are here joining us today. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Lolita, and I'm here joining a very special guest, Matthew, who is actually a former speaker at YouthSpeak. And for those who are just joining us who have never heard of YouthSpeak, what we do is we go into schools all around the GTA now through online presentations, and we have youth share their stories of lived experience surrounding things like mental health and wellness, self-care, bullying prevention, LGBTQ issues, anti-Black racism, and much, much more. And today we just come to have an open and live discussion with Matthew. We're going to be hearing a bit about his story, some of the things that he struggled with in his past with mental health, as well as some of the things that are going on right now for him. And yeah, we want it to be just an open and live discussion. So of course, you guys, everyone in the comments, feel free, if you have a comment or a question, just pop it into the comment. We'll get it answered. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
totally. So yeah, I guess those of you who don't know me, I'll give you a brief overview. Um, I joined YouthSpeak, and it's already been so long. I joined in 2014, and I was a speaker with them for about 2 years. I was doing it pretty often, and then I did the odd one up until about 2017 or 2018. But yeah, my general experience with anxiety is definitely not new. It's
Yeah.
always been a very ongoing thing in my life, starting from when I was really young. Um, I always felt kind of different, just in the sense that I always wanted to fit in, and I was extremely shy, and I did struggle with a learning disability, in a sense, and I'm also neurodiverse, which means it's neurodiverse can be anywhere on the autism spectrum, or someone with ADHD, um, just someone who's basically not neurotypical. So I did face a lot of learning challenges, which I didn't completely understand at the time. So that definitely made things a little tricky, just like not understanding certain social cues right away, or like needing things to be explained to me in a different way than everybody else. That also caused a little bit of bullying. So just between all of those things, I became just super hypersensitive and very aware of myself and my body at all times. So just like my body language and how I spoke to people, and just kind of all these little things. So I became such a perfectionist, and always making sure I was kind of perfect at all times, and just it's like there was always a spotlight on me, and I always had to be on, but I didn't actually allow for myself to be myself and experience human emotions, because I wanted to be amazing at everything, and I wanted to prove that I was worthy to everybody around me. So that was really tricky. I did struggle with being LGBTQ as well, just not really knowing about myself, and um, yeah, there was definitely a lot of challenges with that. So in general, it's to sum it up, I was a very anxious person, and that kind of went into my adult years too, just like getting overwhelmed very easily. Um, if there's any adults here, you're in high school or college, you know how it is. Like you start adulting, and it's just like there's lots of different tasks. So I found that just in itself very challenging, like just doing daily tasks and keeping a kind of a routine, and yeah, that would spiral me into like panic attacks. I used to have panic attacks like every day, and just yeah, just trying to aim so high when I didn't really know what my needs were at the time. So it was just kind of a lack of self-awareness, right? And once I started to develop self-awareness, I was able to reach out to people and find people that were very similar to me, and that struggled as well with mental health, and yeah.
You talked about bullying, some of the bullying that you faced pretty early on. Like, was that in relation to your LGBTQ status, or?
It's one of those things where, like, because I was a kid, and I was so focused on what I was doing and how I was perceived by other people, it's so hard to tell if the bullying was related to my identity, like, because I was always like pretty feminine, and I definitely wasn't like a lot of the other boys. So it could have been something related to that, or it could have been, I don't know, because people, like, I used to zone out and daydream all the time, so maybe like people saw that I was like completely just on another planet.
Right.
Maybe it was something like that, or maybe it was just like the people who were bullying me had something going on and they're just finding an easy target, right?
Yeah, that's what
Like
I
I know even I've done that before. Like when I felt insecure, I've maybe not lashed out is the right word, but I've maybe teased somebody, even if it was as a joke. Maybe that was perceived as bullying. So it's really hard to tell what it was, but I think it could have been a combination of everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point that you brought up. We talked about that before in one of our other chats about bullying and how that was some of my experience too, because I used to get teased and I wasn't really feeling really good about myself. I used to turn around and do the same thing. So I think that's an interesting point that you brought up. To know that you can relate in that way is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's one of those things. You're I think I'm pretty cool. Why are people teasing me? But then you get so
Right.
self-conscious. You're like, am I doing something wrong? Like it was almost like there's a rule book and I'm not like playing by the rules or something of just like what's like socially acceptable, or like I don't know. I became very self-aware of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's really cool that you can. I mean, it's not cool that people got hurt maybe, but I think it's kind of an incredible thing when you can relate with somebody. So I find it really interesting that you can relate from that sense.
I think it's really good that we can sort of look back at our behavior. I think that's an important part too, sort of to look back
Yeah.
and recognize the ways that we hurt people and sort of try to make amends now. So that's some of the things that I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I think right now, especially during this whole COVID time, has made me so. You talked about being so introspective, really starting to reflect on how I'm being
Yeah.
perceived or how I'm perceiving other people and things like that. So yeah, very interesting. So when you were getting bullied throughout, so around what time were you getting bullied, and what did you do? How did you reach out? How did you get help for that?
Um, I feel like it probably started pretty early, like maybe even like kindergarten, but I didn't really notice it, or I didn't feel like it affected me a lot until like grade 7 and 8, because I feel like that was I don't know if it's still a thing, but that was maybe like 2007. So I feel like for some reason around that time, grade 7 and 8, it was like, you just, everybody wanted to be cool and like have a lot of friends and stuff. So I think just that in itself too, I was like very aware that I was being teased a lot.
Mhm.
um, yeah, because before that, like I literally didn't care if people were. I was like, whatever. Like I'm just so happy and I love just being myself, and that was really all that mattered. And then yeah, like grade 7 came, and I was like, oh, like this is horrible. And I guess like I didn't really reach out until I was so bad at it for a long time. I want to say somewhere in high school, but when I actually started like fully opening up was probably not until college. Um, so I was maybe around like 17, 18. I think the times I did open up in high school, it was kind of just a genuine curiosity. Like I was a very curious person all the time. So I just started making friends naturally because I started focusing on the things that I wanted to do. So like at that time, I loved music and I loved, acrobatics, and I was such a drama kid in high school. And I feel like those things kind of naturally brought me towards people that were like me. And then because of that, I just kind of felt like I was in a safe place. So there was definitely a lot of reaching out and opening up about things I was going through, but even just having a safe space and knowing that people weren't judgmental, that in itself was such a huge weight off my shoulders, because I felt like I could be myself and I could flourish with
That's
these
amazing.
other individuals, right?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, finding that safe space where you feel like you can connect with the people, and then just by happenstance, you just all start to become vulnerable, start to share with each other, and that's how you can ultimately get help if you are going
Yeah.
through, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, fortunately now because of the internet, like there's so many amazing resources for things like that, like bullying and just mental health. But yeah, like when I guess I'm not that old, but like when I was growing up, but it's true, like even like 10, 12 years ago, there was yeah, I guess there wasn't as much knowledge out there uh, on the internet. So yeah, I guess you were really reliant on just like finding the right people. And even when you did finally, like when I finally reached out, I confided in people that I really trusted, which were like a lot of my close friends. And I've always been pretty close with my family, like people in my family. So I would reach out to them, and yeah.
Right. Now you mentioned about about coming out. Do you mind if we talk a little bit about that story
Yeah,
about you
sure.
coming out? If you had anxiety surrounding that, what did you do to sort of help yourself to? Because I know that's such a difficult thing to do. So how did you even go about doing something like that?
Yeah, I definitely had anxiety about it for sure. I It's hard. It's such a non-linear thing, which I think is huge for anyone who's coming out. Like it's I guess a lot of people think it's like a very linear journey, but mine was just very non-linear. Like things happened in so many sporadic places. Um, I guess when I started realizing that, because I myself am bisexual, um, and yeah, I also identify as queer, which is kind of an umbrella term just for anyone who's LGBTQ, which, you know, it's just kind of an umbrella term. And I don't really like to define myself by too many rigid labels. But I guess I realized I was LGBTQ when I was pretty young, but I started noticing it maybe in high school. Um, and then I didn't actually come out fully until I was about 22. Um, my amazing partner who I'm still with, it's been like 3 or 4 years now, but we actually started dating before I came out to a lot of people. So that was kind of the turning point when I just started working up the courage. And I think I built up a lot of anxiety in my head because we know I'm an anxious person now. I had a lot of different stories and a lot of stories about how people would react. And once I did it, I was very, very lucky and very blessed to have such amazing support from the people that I needed it from the most. And not everyone has, you know, not everybody is that fortunate. But I think just even having friends or family or somebody that is supportive can go a long way. So once I, once I came out to like a lot of my people that were close to me, I kind of came out, I guess, more to the world as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did struggle with a lot of anxiety after, just because I feel like when you suppress a part of yourself so much, I don't know, like I'm very kind of black and white. Like there's not really a lot of gray area for me a lot of the time, which I'm always working on. Like just like relax, like you can, you know, things can be fluid, everything can be fluid. But I suppressed a lot of myself, so I kind of went super extreme on the other side. Like I started feeling like I needed to be a certain way to be accepted as an LGBTQ person. Like I needed to look a certain way. I needed to like certain things. I needed to be like a very stereotypical LGBTQ person. But that's totally not the case. I mean, you can be whoever you want and you can still be LGBTQ. Like,
For
you
sure.
know
I
what I
think
mean? Like you can be any gender, you can be, you can love anybody you want. You can have, you know, no matter what you look like or feel like on the inside, that doesn't have to necessarily match who you are on the outside, which I thought it needed to. So I tried very hard to just be so many different things and have kind of the same narrative as other people that came out. And I was almost ashamed of certain things about myself uh, in my past before I came out, because I was like, oh, my coming out story has to be like this picture perfect, like the way that everybody else's is. But
right.
the truth is, it's such a unique experience for everybody, and it's something that doesn't need to be rushed. Like you can really take your time with it and make sure that you're truly ready, um, and just, you know, you're super comfortable. And it's okay if you're not, and it takes a lot of time, but as long as you're comfortable with yourself, your experience can be totally unique, and it doesn't have to be a certain way.
For sure. You brought up
Yeah.
so many really great points. Like your story is your story. And you also talked about it not being a linear thing. You know, I think that's one thing, and I think
Hmm.
that's sort of some of the anxiety sort of builds from, right? People will get so much anxiety because they're thinking of all the things that people might say, might do, thinking of all these things that are not really existing. We build up all these things in our head, and then you know, you come out to the end of
Yeah.
it, or you come on the other side of it, and you're like, oh, okay, it wasn't that bad, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
think that's an important thing to remember. It's not this linear thing, and everyone has their own sort of story.
It's totally important. And yeah, it's not, it's again, I kind of thought before I came out that I would tell people and then that would be it. I would just be like rainbows all the time.
Yeah.
Right? But like,
right.
I mean, and for some people that is, and that's fantastic. Like that's truly amazing. And I'm totally cheering on people that have just like, it's been such a quick, easy process. But for a lot of people, including myself, it's something that I still deal with every day. Like even there's certain days when people ask me my sexuality and I'm like, I don't know. Because I've been with I've been with my partner for a long time. So I don't even, it's almost like I don't even really think about it too much, but I just focus on like, I'm happy and that's really what matters. Right. And that's why, again, like if you're LGBTQ, if you identify as queer, for example, it can be literally an umbrella term. It can be anything you want it to be. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. We actually got a comment here. Sean says, "Must have felt like a huge weight must have been lifted off your shoulders." Do you feel like a huge weight was lifted off your shoulders?
Definitely, yeah. Especially like right after I told the people whose opinions I really valued, and again, like luckily for me, those people were so supportive, and up to this day are amazing. But yeah, it would like literally, I felt the weight off my shoulders. Like I had muscles that I was like, oh wow, like I don't remember what it feels like to be relaxed.
Yeah, no, that is something that I feel like we can all sort of relate to, even just with anything that we're sort of going through, right? It feels so heavy at the time. We have so much anxiety surrounding like even talking to somebody about it, and we're thinking they're gonna judge us. There's so many things that go on in our mind, but then after we just feel that weight sort of lift off of our shoulders. So that's one thing that I need to remember, that because even during this whole COVID thing, there's lots of things that I've been sort of dealing with, lots of feelings I've been dealing with, and wanting to express them and not really even knowing how, really, and again building up that anxiety in my mind, like the person's going to judge me, they're going to think this, they're going to think that. But this is just, again, another reminder to myself to just let it go. The people that love me, no matter what, they're going to love me anyways, and yeah, so.
Completely, yeah. And like you might have the odd person that doesn't, and yeah, again, it can extend to literally anything, not just LGBTQ, but anything about you, that if you confide in someone, even like you might have the odd person that isn't supportive. And yeah, if they're not supportive, then hopefully you have other people who are. And if you don't, then I promise you will find those people, because everybody wants to be heard. And I think that's just kind of a universal thing, that you will draw the right people once you're honest with yourself and you're genuine, and yeah, it'll come. But no, absolutely. It's just anything that you've been building up for a while, once you release it, it feels incredible.
For sure. I'm actually going to throw a question out to the audience. Everyone, I want to know, everyone out there in the audience, how have you been feeling during this, especially during the holidays and with all the shutdowns and everything? How's everyone feeling with their mental health? Is it difficult? How are you feeling? We'll wait for some responses. I wanted to, we talked about, you actually mentioned you had suffered a few panic attacks. And I know something that that's something that I dealt with before in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about the situation that occurred and how you what you did to sort of cope, or how you overcame that situation?
Yeah, I can give a pretty tactile, is that the right word? Like I can give like an example that people can relate to. I think tactile example, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So I used to, for some reason, it's funny, okay, so I used to be terrified of public transit, and then as I was about to say that, I'm like, well, now I'm also terrified of public transit, but I feel like it's for a more legitimate reason this time.
Yeah.
But before, this was maybe like 5 years ago or something, I remember there was a period, I was just so terrified of public transit. Maybe it was something with like the enclosed spaces or something. Or it almost like I think I had a panic attack on a bus once, and then I became afraid of having another one, because I'd be like, oh, like what if I can't get off or something and like get fresh air. So I think it kind of fed itself. But what I used to do, I guess my biggest coping tool for that was I just would make playlists for the bus. Like I would put like my favorite songs and I would just listen to it on repeat. If that didn't work, I would just try like mindfulness exercises. Like I would do like the senses. I'd be like, okay, what can I visually see in front of me? What can I feel? Like, is there any smells or tastes? Yeah, so I would just kind of ignite my senses and figure out how to ground myself, and that usually helped quite a bit. And of course, the more I rode the bus during that period, like I had to do it every day, like for work and stuff. So it kind of fizzled out on its own as well. But it kind of a combination of all those things.
Now that isn't a really good tool that we shared in a lot of our presentations. The grounding tool, something that I use daily. Something that I love to do to bring me back to the present moment, because like we talked about with anxiety, we're thinking about all the things that are not even haven't happened yet. We're thinking about all the things that already happened. We're not right here in the moment. So that is a huge thing that I love to use, the grounding tool. So thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and even also too, I mean, I can relate. Some months ago, now it's been like almost a year, I got into a car accident. And even me talking about this has just been a very, me being vulnerable. So I'm going to share this, but I got into a car accident some months ago, and it was really devastating for me. I'm luckily, both people walked away okay. We were both, unhurt. But of course, there's some bumps and bruises and some scratches. But then also the mental side of that, the mental implications, the effects on my mental health were huge. And then even just the panic and the anxiety with driving. Now I have drove like maybe once since that incident, and it all just sort of came flooding back. But I used that grounding tool in that moment to sort of bring myself back. And then even now when I'm driving with other people and I'm feeling those feelings come back, just taking those breaths and doing that grounding tool, so key.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, no, that is a really good example. And that, yeah, I think that just being mindful is definitely super helpful. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear you went through that, but I'm happy to hear that you're finding ways to cope with it. And I think that's, yeah, just the self-awareness that you're like, oh, I know this makes me anxious. I think even that goes such a long way. And I think by just acknowledging it and working through it, you'll be able to maybe not eliminate the fear entirely, but just like you'll be able to cope with it so much better.
Exactly. Yeah. You said self-awareness. That was one thing that because I'm just learning about mental health over this last few years with YouthSpeak, so much about my own mental health and things. So that self-awareness I find is so key, right? Because before I would just kind of just go through life, not really checking with myself. How's this making me feel? Even when things are going on in my body, not really even thinking about it too much. So I think that's the key thing, especially right now with everything that's going on, cluing into yourself, having that self-awareness, and that's ultimately how you can sort of break down that feeling and really think, is this real? Is this something that I'm just building up in my head, or is this a real evidence-based thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just going to get into some of these comments here because we got quite a few. So this is great. It's been tough. Wait, somebody said mostly bored. Yes, I can. Yes, I can definitely relate with that one. Mostly bored and just trying to find different ways to sort of keep my mind busy. That is a challenge. Yeah.
Totally.
It's been tough not being able to see friends and family during the holidays. I try to keep positive by Zooming and playing games with my loved ones. That is a really good one as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just being able to keep that somewhat connection, that face-to-face connection. The Zoom has been coming in it's such handy these days.
Yeah, it's so incredible. I feel like it's gonna be really weird when I finally see my loved ones again and be like, oh wow, you're actually in a human form and not just on my phone screen.
Right?
It's gonna be so strange. But
it is.
I think that's an amazing coping tool. Yeah, just like being able to have technology and like check in with our loved ones and just like play games. There's so many amazing online games.
Yes. Open the world of online games. That's another coping tool. Sort of that's one of the things. One of the coping tools is sort of distraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
distracting our busy minds from thinking all this the stuff that we're thinking of, and sort of just putting it into a project, an activity. So another
Mm-hmm.
great tool. And Diana says that 2020 has been a year filled with anxiety, but what outweighs it is the appreciation of little things. And I think that is such a huge, that's one thing that I definitely noticed. All the little tiny things that, can fill your heart, really.
Yeah, it's honestly insane. Like when you, yeah, like just, I've even started acknowledging like when I wake up and I feel okay to take on the day. I'm like that. That in itself is such a huge accomplishment and like such a small thing to be thankful for. Like, I have a roof over my head. I can walk to the kitchen and have a nice cup of coffee. Like just literally the tiniest things that I never even thought about.
Exactly.
And obviously that can extend to pretty much anything in your daily life. But yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
finding those little
Little,
joys, those little tiny joys throughout the
I
day,
love
just
that
like you said,
comment.
right?
Yeah.
Alex says, I was also in a bad accident. Oh, deep breathing really helps in car situations. Yes, thank you for that, Alex. That's something that I've been practicing, and it's really been helping me to sort of push past and get through that difficult thing. But yeah, thank you so much for that, Alex. And it says being able to name it, especially out loud. Again, this is something that was again, I'm just learning, but that was one thing too. Before I had no idea what a panic attack was. I knew that I experienced this
Hmm.
thing that happened to me, but I actually had no idea what it was. I had no idea exactly. I knew I was feeling all these anxious feelings in my body, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So
Yeah.
calling it out loud.
Yeah. Naming it is very important. Even like, this is something I want to do more of, but I heard it's a really good coping tool. If you kind of take those voices and you actually picture like cartoon characters or something, so you can kind of like does that make sense? So you kind of put names. So like your anxiety will be like one character, and you just picture this like completely ridiculous character in your mind, and you're just like, okay, like I hear you, but but I'm not going to listen to you, kind of thing. Like I feel like if you I don't know if that's what you meant, Una, but I think yeah, like naming feelings is so important for
Yeah,
sure.
for
Feelings and
sure.
emotions.
No, and that's a really interesting tool that
I don't
hey,
know
I
if
might
that's
try and
supposed to
see
be.
how it works, right? Because
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
with everything that's going on now, I'm trying to find every little thing that is gonna help me to sort of feel better, because honestly, this whole thing has been taking its toll. It has. So what about you for COVID? Like, have you been noticing yourself becoming more anxious during all with all the stuff going on?
yeah. It's definitely a mix because I'm learning so much about myself during this time. So I feel like a lot of my general anxiety that I used to have is a lot better. But at the same time, yeah, like just kind of the unknowingness, yeah, like just not knowing what the future holds is definitely overwhelming on certain days. Um, yeah, just like what will my next job be? Like, what do things look like for myself? Like, for everybody, really. Like, um, yeah. So there's definitely some anxiety, and I think just like this time of year too. Luckily, I live in Hamilton, and it's been weirdly mild here, which is so strange, but I like that it's been a bit warmer because I've been able to go on really long walks and just bring my like box film camera and just like photograph whatever I see. Um, so that's been really nice. But yeah, I think anyways, not to ramble on, but I think that the darkness and this time of year and then the holidays and like yeah, the fact that it's the holidays and like I'm not with family is super weird. So I think just in general, like even if it's yeah, it's an anxiety that I've never really felt before. So I'm trying to figure out like what can I do to cope with it, I guess. But I feel like it's kind of a universal thing for like everybody's kind of going through the same kind of feelings. Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that has been helping me. Just rest assured, just knowing the fact that like everybody is sort of going through and feeling this. I'm pretty sure like I'm not the only one who is feeling these feelings of uncertainty and not really knowing what to do, how to do it. I'm just kind of feeling stuck. I'm feeling anxious about everything, even just going out to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Doing something as simple as that is a very anxiety inducing thing for me now. So
Hmm.
again, doing those things like the breathing, that is something that is huge, a huge thing, especially now with now that I'm practicing to become a certified yoga teacher. That is
Oh,
something that
no
I've
way.
learned. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Something that
love
I've learned
that.
that is really key is the breathing and the breath work. So I love
Yeah.
using that.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get into more yoga. As well as like I've done quite a bit of meditation, but I want to do a lot more. And then like yeah, the next step is yoga, because I used to do gymnastics and trampoline, but I've I was never really flexible, but I kind of lost my flexibility, so it's especially hard now. And I just like a lot of the yoga positions I find so difficult. Like my brain is just like panic, panic, panic. But if I really want to try to like as soon as I can master that, that'll be amazing. I might have to hit you up for some yoga tips.
Yeah, no,
But
for
anyways,
sure.
yeah, I think that's amazing. Good for you. That's so exciting, and I can't wait to see where that takes you. Because I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that has been actually huge for me. Not just doing the yoga, it's been helping me feel good every day, but also just having that focus, something to sort of focus on, which is another great coping tool. Having something to focus on every day. I know that every day I should be doing my yoga, I should be doing the reading and the watching some Zoom videos and everything, making sure I'm checking off all the requirements to be able to, because I'm trying to finish it before the end of the year. But again, I'm not gonna try to pressure myself and things like that. It'll come when it comes. But yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh. Alex says you'd be an awesome instructor. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you, Alex. Thank you
Great.
very,
Yeah.
very much. This is a great time to take the time and reset your life and take stock in what you want to keep or change in your life. That is
Mhm.
that's key. I find like now that we have, so much extra downtime, it's a good time to sort of, especially because we're all sort of at home, hanging out by ourselves. It's a good time to sort of break out our journals, break out a piece of paper, and really start to take stock. Just like Diana said, take stock of your life
Great.
now and what you want and things that are working for you, things that are not working for you. So
Yeah. No, I love that. That like you nailed it, because yeah, it's so true. Like it's just lots of reflection, right?
yeah.
And yeah, just figuring out what works and what doesn't. Like even acknowledging those things has improved kind of just my way about life so much. So I really, that comment really resonates. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's anything, and Una said anything that is good for you, for the body, is good for the mind and mood.
Hmm.
Agree. Yes.
Definitely 100%.
Yes. Absolutely. That's one thing, again, that I've come to learn through my journey of learning everything about mental health and how much our brain is connected to our body. So just like Una said, anything that you can do for your body is ultimately going to make your mind feel good. So,
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
No, I love that. Yeah, like it's so surprising how much our body and minds are connected. Like it's insane. It's one of those things. I don't know why. I never really thought about it until a few years ago, and then when I started just realizing it, yeah, things just shifted so much. And once you realize, yeah, I'm kind of repeating myself now, but like once you realize how much they're connected, it's amazing what you can do. Especially, like that's why I love that you're doing yoga, because that's such a prime example of like just learning about how everything is connected in yourself, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and you're not repeating yourself, because that is actually a really important realization to remember. Because honestly, like I said, throughout my journey, I've only just come to that realization, right? So that it really is connected, and I think that's what once more people understand that the connection through the mind and body, we can do so much more for our mental health. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a great conversation so far. I'm just trying to think of, let's run down all the different coping strategies that we named, because I know for me, I'm definitely going to write some of these down, because it's a difficult time, like I shared, and
Yeah.
needing something to help make myself feel good. So we talked about doing the grounding exercise, which is really good. We talked about going on walks, which was amazing. That's something that I do as well. Try to do that daily. We talked
Yeah.
about um, getting your body moving. we talked about having the awareness. I think that is the main thing too, having that awareness and checking in with yourself, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Even like once a day, just kind of like a daily check-in is, it's one of those like things that sounds cliche, but when you actually do it, it's incredible. When you just start to see, you know, your mental health, at least for me, I see my mental health improve a lot. So that's a really good one.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Because we're getting some more comments. And everyone, thank you so much, everyone, for being here, even commenting. It's been all of your comments coming through. I'm learning some really great tips. So this is great. Clean out your social media. Diana says, clean out your social media contact list. Keep those that are good for you and delete those that aren't good for you. This is something that I do every year, actually. This is a really good tip as well. Something that I do every year is sort of a all-around cleanup, whether that's through my contacts list, around my apartment. I just go through and start throwing away things that I just don't need anymore. So
Yeah.
even going through my pictures as well, just cleaning things up, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just a good old fashioned cleanup. It goes such a long way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Actually, one of the things that I actually wanted to touch on, you talked about neurodiversity, and I wanted to actually open that a bit more before we wrap up, because it is a talk that we had. We had another IG live discussion about learning differences or learning differences,
Yeah.
and I didn't hear about that neurodiversity. Could you share a little bit about that again?
Yeah. So it's something I'm not an expert on it by any means because I'm still learning so much about it. But it's basically because there's neurotypical and neurodiverse, right? So people that are neurodiverse, it can be anywhere from like the autism spectrum is a huge like there's so many different subcategories in there. Um, you know, people are on different places on that spectrum, and then it could also be like ADHD or um, yeah. To my knowledge, those are the biggest ones, but it's basically just anyone who it's just like yeah a completely different way of learning and just going about things. So like specific examples could be like sensory issues or uh yeah like being extremely visual in terms of learning rather than what's the other one, just like yeah I guess being very visual, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other examples. This is something I'm still learning so much about. um but I definitely encourage anyone who's interested in it. Just you could find so much even just on the internet about it. It's truly amazing, and I think it's one of those things that people who are neurodiverse definitely aren't given enough credit a lot of the time because a lot of the time they're such creative individuals and they have so much to offer, and yeah, it's just amazing.
No, that's great. Alex actually said that's a great description, and that's interesting. And that's why I had to ask again because I thought it was really interesting some of the things that I learned with that discussion that we had about learning differences. So, just thank you again for sharing that and clearing that up for.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, because that does make me feel better. I'm like, okay.
No, no, that's great.
Yeah, it's
That's
something I'm
great.
still in the thick of learning all about it. So I'm trying to remember like what have I read recently that would resonate in the chat. But yeah.
And I think that's a good thing too. Also, learning about ourselves is another really great coping tool right now. Just like you said, you're learning about yourself, learning more about neurodiversity, learning the things that make us us. Taking now we have all this extra time going in there. If it's a quick Google search, if it's a book, if it's there's so many different resources that we can use out there that we can find more about ourselves. Can I ask you, how did you, were you diagnosed? Is this something that you get diagnosed with, or how did you come to the realization that you're neurodiverse?
So when I was really young, I was diagnosed with it's so the autism spectrum has changed a lot, but when I was younger, it was kind of like it was like a sibling of autism. It was pervasive developmental disorder. So for me, a lot of my motor skills were a bit delayed. So I found very specific things really, really difficult. And then, yeah, just like I had trouble with like certain communication. Like I had trouble reading like very certain facial cues. Like if somebody made a joke, I would take it literally and I wouldn't know what they were saying. But anyways, yeah, I was diagnosed more or less, from what I can remember when I was really young. And then I kind of rediscovered it in adulthood. And I haven't been re-diagnosed, if that makes sense, but it's something I know I definitely struggle with just based off what I've read. And yeah, um, it's kind of been like a rediscovery in a sense that has really helped me just know myself a lot better. And it actually does help me cope a lot with my anxiety, just knowing myself on that deep of a level of like, okay, like this simple thing is harder for me and that's totally okay. I just have to have a mental checklist going into it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
We got a few comments here. Just want to make sure we don't miss them out. So Muriel, again, sorry if I ruined your name, but I has had people ask why I deleted them off Facebook. So in response to cleaning up your contacts list, hey,
Yeah.
it's okay. You know what? They'll understand, right? I'm pretty sure everyone's doing it at the end of the year anyways, cleaning up their contacts list. So I'm pretty sure they'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just take it personally.
And then asked, what is your advice for those in the LGBTQ community who are anxious to come out to family and friends? What strategies can they use to make coming out less anxious ridden? It's a great question.
That is a really good question.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think because I can only speak for my own experience, but I think it'll probably extend out to other people as well. Really just make sure that you know internally it's a good time. Like, don't feel if you feel too pressured to come out before you're ready, then it won't turn out badly in any way. It'll just be like you'll be really anxious because maybe you know internally like you're not quite ready yet. So just really make sure that you're honest with yourself and for me, I just kind of knew when it was the right time, and that was also because I started dating my partner that I'm still with, right? But like that for me is kind of like the right time. But even if that's not the case for you, I think you'll kind of know. Um, but I guess my best advice is maybe just if you want to find like online resources, those are super helpful. And just seeing visibility, like there's a couple of great online resources like Trevor Project, for example, or there's an online magazine called Them, which has there's just a really broad spectrum of different LGBTQ folks that are all so incredible and they share experiences. And I guess just having a lot of awareness, and then yeah, just I guess finding the people that you trust the most. And if you feel like you don't have people, I mean, you'll either be very surprised because people that maybe you think aren't accepting will be accepting. Luckily for me, I kind of knew that like it was more of my anxiety telling me that they wouldn't be, but I knew the people I trusted would be. But yeah, like you'll either be really surprised by people that are super accepting, which will be incredible, or um, if in the unfortunate case that people aren't, then at least you'll know. Hopefully, there's a lot of like online groups and resources that you can find your tribe and just you can feel like you have a safe place to discover yourself more.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, that is very true. Finding your tribe of people and reaching out. One thing that I find with any situation you're having anxiety sort of about it, telling someone about something. One thing that I find works for me is finding it's called evidence base. So
Oh,
looking
cool.
at the situation and
Yeah.
thinking about all the things that just say a situation. I'm gonna tell my mom that I like flowers
Yeah.
instead of oranges. I don't know, random thing. But I'm gonna tell my mom I like flowers. We're building it up in our mind, thinking, oh my gosh, she's good. She hates flowers. She's gonna hate me because I like flowers. All these different things. But it's like, where's the evidence in that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For
So
sure. Yeah. It's important to, if you feel like you're in a safe space, chances are you will have a safe space to come out. And yeah, again, it can extend beyond LGBTQ. It can be like something you're struggling with, or just anything that you feel like you need to get off your shoulders. Like I don't know. I was very surprised by how incredible people are just with wanting to help. And yeah, it's just amazing when you find the right people, for sure. Yeah.
And one thing too, I feel like anxiety, again, we build it up in our mind, like just like you talked about, we build it up so much in our mind, and then once we tell the people the thing is that we want to tell them, we're so surprised by their reaction, because it's more often than not they're always going to be
It's
surprised, right? So
yeah, like sometimes it'll be completely different than what you expect. It's you're
exactly,
like, oh wow, like that's really amazing. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we have a few best couple ever.
Oh, that's my
Is that one
go-to
of your
thing.
friends?
That is one of my
Nice.
friends. Yeah. Hi.
Thanks for joining us, friend of Matthew. Hello, hello.
Yeah, thank you so
Thanks for
much for
everyone who's here joining us. Actually, this is it's been a great conversation. Having a really good time just chatting here with you, Matthew. Sorry if I'm just taking up your all of your time, but it's been a good conversation.
No, yeah, like it's been incredible. I'm so happy we've been able to chat about all of these different things, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I just want to get into a few more of these comments before we wrap up here. So Diana says, I had anxiety for the last several years, and the best thing I ever did is go to my doctor and get tested to talk to them about it. Don't keep anxiety inside. Talk to your doctor and get what you need. Very, very key. Again, that is very key. Yeah, talking about it. It can be really difficult, admitting to yourself or talking to someone, but ultimately that is a key thing, going out there and talking to our doctor. That's something that amazing, a really good tool that we can do. Going to talk to a professional about some of the things that we're feeling, and then from there they can maybe prescribe us a medicine, or even just give us some type of advice and help with that, right?
Totally, yeah. Totally.
The worst thing to do is keep anxiety within yourself. Yeah, and that's again, I feel that I agree with that 100%. Getting it out, releasing it, even just talking about it, even just one of the things we didn't mention is journaling about it. Something that I've used. If I'm really upset about something, I'll just go into my journal and just go ahead and write about it. It helps me to sort of push those feelings out. So
Yeah, totally. Like there's lots of different outlets. Even yeah, like if it's hard to talk about it right away, you can, use exercise or I don't know. I was gonna say eating. You can eat delicious food. I don't know if that's really a coping mechanism.
healthy food. Hey, if that's what makes you feel better, I feel like, in that moment, if you want to eat something that's just going to make you feel good, why not? That's the
But
way
yeah, no, exactly, and yeah, just even like meditation and
Mhm.
yoga, like those are such, it's such a good release of energy. So even if it takes you a little while to open up, if you kind of have different things you can turn to until you build up the courage, I think those will go a long way, for sure.
Absolutely. Some people have a hard time talking to anyone about it. That's a really good point you actually brought up, because that's one thing. Just like I shared about my car accident, this is something that I don't even think I've shared with my family. So it can be really hard to sort of be that vulnerable and talk to somebody about something. What do you recommend in a situation like that? Something so vulnerable. How can we overcome that initial thing that makes us not reach out in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Again, I think just kind of having almost like a checklist of different coping tools. Because it's yeah, depending on the situation, like for me, it got to a point where I just had to open up to people about what I was going through. Um, so even though I wasn't necessarily, I don't know, it's like the courage almost kind of like I was guided to do it. Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. And
Like
sometimes that's the way things work, right? Like
yeah,
the
it's just
universe,
kind of
life just pushes us to do things.
exactly like if you just kind of practice having faith and just know that, the timing will work itself out eventually, I think. If you're not ready and you're not ready, then maybe wait it out. But if it's a case where you or someone is in danger, then it's really really important to just at least take that first leap into telling somebody, because once you start, like I found when I started opening up to people, then it's like I couldn't stop. Like I would tell everybody everything, right? Like I just got so used to it.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind, once you take that first initial step, it'll get so much easier as you continue to do it, right?
I think that is such an important point that you brought up. Yeah, you know, again, it's just about taking that first step, and then we see how much easier it can be, right? So, yeah. So it's very hard to talk to someone. One of the best, it's very hard to talk to someone, but it's one of the best things that you can do. Agree. And Una
Yeah.
says, be gentle and kind with yourself.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's so important. Yeah.
And Dan says, you are not alone. No one will or should ever turn you away. If you want to talk, talking to a stranger is sometimes easier than talking to someone you know. Again, this is something huge for me when I was going through a lot of difficult things. Even right now, I even found myself thinking right now, again, because it's a number that we share, the kids' helpline. I'm actually going to give them a call because I'm going through some stuff and I kind of just want to talk to somebody who you know, who's not connected to me, you know, in a way. Sometimes you just want somewhere to just vent about something, and that's a really great resource that I've used in the past, and I think I'm going to actually use again.
Even like, I don't have a pet, but even if you had a pet, you could even like, I don't know, you could talk to your pet. I think that's
exactly no,
I think that's amazing. Like, yeah.
people who have pets have always shared that has been something for them that really works. Talking to your pet, right? Because your pet's not going to be there to judge you or say anything or anything. You can just vent and share. So
yeah. Even you mentioned like journaling, like even that, because you can kind of, it's a way to let it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing actually also too is self-soothing, you know, because, you know, again, sometimes you especially now with COVID, everybody, you can't go to your mom's house and kind of, you know, cry on her shoulder if you're going through something. Your dad's, your grandma's, your aunties. Right now, you kind of just we're all self-isolated. So one thing that has been working for me is self-soothing. There's a bunch of different self-soothing sort of movements and activities that you can do, sort of bring yourself back to a warm, fuzzy, good feeling. But there's also all these different coping mechanisms that we're talking about is a form of self-soothing, really.
Yeah, and also like, yeah, even guided meditations. Like if you look on YouTube, there's some amazing, I think it's loving something meditation. I wish I knew it, but if you Google, like, you could even Google like meditation for social anxiety or meditation for seasonal depression. Like I've done some amazing ones where literally like it's helped me so much. So if you feel like there's nowhere to turn right away, like even that could be really helpful.
Now that's amazing too. Yeah, that's one thing that I try to now that I'm doing a lot more yoga. I try to always, you know, have a few minutes of that quiet meditation time. But I definitely want to get more into some of those guided meditations. So that is a really good resource. I'm going to hit up YouTube, do a quick Google search, and find some of those guided meditations because those are key.
Totally.
Yeah. And then we have a few comments here. Oreo is my dog. Oreo's a therapist. Her dog's yeah. Exactly. That is the best listener ever.
Yeah, I've met both these dogs and they're the best things ever. So I can definitely see that.
Exactly. You know, sometimes people don't have emotional support. They're not just called emotional support dogs for nothing, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a key thing. Just talking to someone, right? Even if it's just your dog. Freddie is hers as well. Okay. Taking the time to be just you, being yourself is important. It's part of the communication. Yes, exactly. Coming back to yourself and having those moments with yourself, which is what meditation, grounding, yoga, all these tools ultimately help you do.
I love that.
Yeah. Ramdas, listen to him. Oh, is this Ramdas? Listen to him speak, and oh my God, he's so amazing. Or Jack Cornfield. Okay. Ramdas and Jack Cornfield. Okay, I'm gonna actually write that one down.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm gonna check that out too.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. It's been such a great conversation thus far. We are going to wrap up very, very shortly. We have one last comment here. Diana, write a letter to yourself to all of your positive qualities and keep it to refer to it when you feel anxious. This is something that I do. I have a list of positive affirmations that I sort of go back to every time I'm having one of those moments where I'm just feeling a bit low. That's another key tool.
Totally, yeah. No, that's so important. It can literally be anything. You just
Yeah.
write it down and go back to it. Yeah, it's a good reminder.
Okay, so and those people we talked about, Jack Cornfield and Ram Dass, are mindfulness leaders. So I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Please DM me those. Because this is my friend. Please
Okay,
DM
awesome.
me these, or maybe I should write it down. Maybe I should do what you're doing because I might forget.
Awesome. And then, oh, your chat was awesome. Please have another one soon. Yes, thank you so much, Vic. Probably gonna ruin your name, but I'll just call you Vic. Thank you so much for even
Oh
joining.
yeah.
Thank you everyone who is a part of this conversation. We are here every Tuesday, so if you enjoyed this conversation, we're here every Tuesday. We talk about different topics every time. So, and if you have any ideas for some topics that you guys want to talk about, please feel free to shoot us a DM. Let us know. Because yeah, we enjoy doing these lives, and we'll be doing them every Tuesday. Right now, we're going to take a little break, of course, for the holidays, but we'll be starting right back up into the new year. So
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I
yeah,
hope everyone enjoys their holidays and stay
yeah.
safe.
So Diane says someone told me once to get a mason jar, and every time something good happens, write it down, put it in the jar, and at the end of the year, read it. That was another one too that I heard. I don't know if Diane shared this one with us before, which is another one. Diane's just coming with these amazing. Everyone's coming with all these amazing tips. So it's been really great. But that's another key one. Taking a mason jar, putting all these amazing things in the jar that have happened to you, and at the end of the year, you can open the jar and sort of read all these amazing things you went through. So I think that's
Yeah, I'll do that. I love it.
yeah. But okay, Matthew, I won't keep you any longer. It's been a great conversation. I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of things about you, and it's been great. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure. And I hope your yoga goes amazingly. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. And Matthew, I hope to have you on here again soon because it's been such a great conversation. I'd love to have you again. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
great. Okay, happy holidays, everyone in the comments. Thank you all for being here. It's always been a great conversation. It's always such a good conversation when we get people in the comments, sharing with us. So again, thanks for spending a bit of your holidays here with us at YouthSpeak. It's been great. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Happy holidays, everyone.